Hey y'all, I am back with another sponsored video. This one is about Pamela Colman Smith, the lady behind the cards. So Pamela Colman Smith, she is the illustrator of the Rider-Waite tarot deck. So I'm going to get into her chart and talk about what made her a good illustrator for these cards. This video has been sponsored by Roma. Thank you, Roma, for sponsoring this video. Roma wants to know, she said, I don't know if there is a birth time for her. I couldn't find a birth time. We do have her birthday, February 16th, 1878. The major question that comes to mind for me is if her chart can shed light on her being mulatto. I think she was, and the controversy surrounding her lineage. There are some people in the occult community, Golden Dawn types, who keep saying her parents were American and were predominant figures. However, that doesn't mean she wasn't mulatto. And as far as I know, there has been no DNA test done on her. All the occultists have is the fact her parents were American. Therefore, the questions for the case study are: 1. Can her birth chart provide us with clues regarding her ancestry and indicate the controversy surrounding her lineage? The controversy alone makes me think she was indeed mulatto. 2. What areas of her birth chart indicate her talents and abilities being used to create the images for the tarot cards? 3. What aspects in general indicate someone's artistic abilities being used to make magical tools like tarot or oracle cards? 4. I think she said she has synesthesia, and I am wondering what combination of signs and planets in a birth chart could produce that ability and if that is present in her birth chart. All right, so let's get into her chart. So just to get into question number 3, you said what aspects in general can indicate someone's artistic abilities being used to make magical tools like tarot or oracle cards. So basically, if a person has a personal planet in conjunction, sextile, or trine with Neptune, preferably Mercury, because Mercury rules cards. Mercury being in an artistic sign like Pisces or Taurus definitely helps. And Mercury being conjunct or sextile Venus, that definitely helps as well. So let's get into Pamela's numerology. So she was born on the 16th, and that 16 makes her an artist. It explains why she was an illustrator. Also, it deals with mystical, magical, and spiritual life. And she was an island gal. So part of her lineage was Jamaican. So that 16 goes into play with that. And also the sacrifice that she had to make to create these cards, mainly a financial sacrifice, because she said that she hardly got paid anything for being an illustrator of this tarot deck. And the whole project was very grueling and overwhelming. Her life path number is 33, that breaks down to 6. And 33 is a master number, and it deals with love, sex, and magic. And it can make one artistic. And that 6 breaks down, well, the 33 breaks down to 6, and 6 deals with partnerships. And she was in partnership with A.E. Waite, who was the creator of the tarot deck. Not the original creator, but creator of his own version of the tarot. And 6 also deals with money. So her early life. Pamela would spend her day sketching scenes that mirrored the breathtaking landscape surrounding her. That's dealing with her Venus in Pisces and sextile with Neptune in Taurus. Her racial makeup. Now, she looked like a mulatto to me, or you could say she looked like she could have been Creole. So I wouldn't be surprised if she was mulatto. It says those who left written comments about their impressions of her confess how hard it was to place her within the gender, class, and racial categories of her time. W.B. Yeats, for instance, wrote that she looked exactly like a Japanese. Now, I don't see that. Nanny says this Japanese appearance comes from her constantly drinking iced water. That's weird. Another described her as this odd artist mystic girl. Another insinuated that Smith might be part Native American. Henry Wood Nevison noted that she might be touched with Negro blood. One of Smith's classmates described her as looking like a strange African deity. A 1912 profile of her described her as resembling a brown squirrel and a Chinese baby and a radiant morning. Final description of her to share here: goddaughter of a witch and sister to a fairy. Smith's racial background remains in the realm of speculation, but what we can probably say for sure is that she didn't conform to the norms of her time, which meant that during her lifetime, she never fit neatly in any one box. She didn't even fit age norms. Yeats commented on how she looked like an old woman when she was still very young during her youth. So the fact that she's dealing with this racial ambiguity is dealing with her moon in Leo square Neptune in Taurus, which can certainly create that racial ambiguity. And it can deal with confusion over racial makeup because the moon deals with race. Now, the moon being in Leo is not really describing what race she is, but it could show that she did take pride in her race or lineage or culture. Her familial roots, stemming from her Jamaican mother and Welsh father, bestowed upon her a unique cultural heritage that would influence her artistic journey profoundly. So I found this quote, which is basically more clear and more matter of fact about her racial makeup, saying that she had a Jamaican mother and a Welsh father. So that would make her mulatto. Pamela said, I have heard it said that half the world has nothing to say. Perhaps the other half has, but it is afraid to speak. Banish fear, brace your courage. Place your ideal high up with the sun, away from the dirt and squalor and ugliness around you, and let that power that makes the war of the high power presses enter into your work, energy, courage, life, love. Use your wits, use your eyes. Perhaps use your physical eyes too much and only see the mask. Find eyes within. Look for the door into the unknown country. So this quote is basically represented by her moon in Leo opposing Mercury in Aquarius. Especially the part where she's talking about the roar of the high power presses. The roar meaning like lion. Synesthesia. So before I get into the whole synesthesia thing, let me just read about what it means. Synesthesia or synesthesia is a perceptual phenomenon in which stimulation of one's sensory or cognitive pathways leads to involuntary experiences in a secondary sensory or cognitive pathway. For instance, people with synesthesia may experience colors when listening to music, see shapes when smelling certain scents, or perceive taste when looking at words. People who report a lifelong history of such experiences are known as synesthetes. Awareness of synesthetic perceptions varies from person to person, with the perception of synesthesia differing based on an individual's unique life experiences and the specific type of synesthesia that they have. In one common form of synesthesia, known as grapheme color synesthesia or color graphemic synesthesia, letters or numbers are perceived as inherently colored. In spatial sequence or number form synesthesia, numbers, months of the year, or days of the week elicit precise locations in space, or may appear as three-dimensional maps. Synesthetic associations can occur in any combination and any number of senses or cognitive pathways. So that synesthesia can be shown through her sextile between her Venus in Pisces and Neptune in Taurus. Basically, that synesthesia is dealing with Neptune influences, Piscean influences as well. And basically, with the Neptune and Pisces influence, it's hard to clearly define things. It's hard to put them in categories. It's hard to have the separate individual expression of things. So that's why it's like with this synesthesia, things are basically blended into each other, even when they are not related, such as, again, coming up with colors for certain words. So she joined the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and that occurred in 1901. So her joining a secret society or, a mystical, metaphysical society, joining a group in general, is her sun conjoined to her Aquarius North Node. Also, her Uranus conjoined to her South Node in Leo. As you can see, she had a Taurus stellium, which is great for being an artist. She also had a Pisces stellium, which is great for being an artist as well. The Leo stellium is representing her creativity. Defying social norms. Corinne Pamela Colman Smith, who went by the nickname Pixie, which is so Pisces, defying so many social norms, it's hard to keep count. So that's represented by her Sun and North Node in Aquarius squaring Pluto in Taurus. That's her defying social norms, with the norms being represented by Pluto and Taurus, and her defying them represented by her Aquarius Sun and North Node. Also, she had Mercury in Aquarius squaring Mars, Neptune, and Chiron in Taurus, which are other representations of her defying social norms. Also, Uranus in Leo squaring Pluto in Taurus just compounds this theme of defying social norms. So she couldn't live an ordinary life even if she tried with the hookup she had in her chart. This is just an image of her, and it's showing her passport application, which is where people were able to verify her date of birth. Storytelling. Her tone in both the articles and stories she published, scans of which are reproduced in the book for your perusal, is full of life, spirited, and vivid. So that is basically just dealing with the fact that she had Moon in Leo, which can result in having stories to tell that are very full of life, spirited, and vivid. Other accomplishment. In 1901, she established a studio in London and held a weekly open house for artists, authors, actors, and other involved with the arts. Arthur Ransom, then in his early 20s, describes one of these at-home evenings and the curious artistic circle around Smith in his 1907 Bohemia in London. So her basically establishing this studio is represented by Venus and Pisces, sextile Neptune and Taurus, and then her basically surrounding herself by these creative types, including actors, is represented by her Moon in Leo, but also her Uranus and South Node in Leo as well. And then her basically creating this group or society is represented by this opposition involving her Sun and North Node in Aquarius, Uranus and South Node in Leo. Smith wrote and illustrated 2 books about Jamaican folklore, Anansi Stories and Chim Chim, Folk Stories from Jamaica. These books included Jamaican versions of tales involving the traditional African folk figure Anansi the Spider. So the fact that she's drawing from her Jamaican roots to create these stories is dealing with her Venus and Pisces, sextile Neptune and Taurus. She also continued her illustration work, taking on projects for William Butler Yeats and his brother, the painter Jack Yeats. She illustrated Bram Stoker's last novel, The Lair of the White Worm, in 1911, and Ellen Terry's book on Digilev's Ballet of Russes, the Russian ballet, in 1913. Activism. Smith supported the struggle for the right to vote, and through the Suffrage Atelier, a collective of professional illustrators, she contributed artwork to further the cause of women's suffrage in Great Britain. Additionally, Smith donated her services for more poster designs and toys to the Red Cross during World War I. So the fact that she had Sun conjoined to her North Node in Aquarius is basically pointing to activism was a must. So her basically supporting the cause of women's suffrage is the activism that is represented by this conjunction. Sun in Aquarius conjoined to Venus in Pisces. That is Pamela contributing artwork to further the cause of women's suffrage. And Venus in Pisces sextile Neptune in Taurus. That is Pamela donating her services for more poster designs for the Red Cross. Publications. In 1903, Smith launched her own magazine under the title The Green Sheaf, with contributions by Yeats, Christopher St. John, Cecil French, A.E., Gordon Craig, John Todd Hunter, and others. The Green Sheaf survived for a little over a year, a total of 13 issues. Discouraged by the Green Sheaf's lack of financial success, Smith shifted her efforts towards setting up a small press in London. In 1904, she established the Green Sheaf Press, which published a variety of novels, poems, fairy tales, and folk tales until at least 1906, mostly by women writers. So this is represented by her Mercury in Aquarius, squaring Mars, Neptune and Chiron in Taurus, the lack of financial success for the magazine, and more than likely the Green Sheaf Press as well. So Mercury in Aquarius is representing the magazine as well as the Green Sheaf Press, and the squares that it forms with the stellium in Taurus is representing the lack of financial success. Basically, you could say that Pamela Colman Smith was one of those starving artists. Sexual preference. The writings of her contemporaries and what little we know of her life suggest she was biracial and maintained romantic relationships with other women. We don't know if she was lesbian or not. I tend to think she had a more fluid, non-binary identity, but we don't know, and this was a time when there wasn't terminology for those identities. We do know that she was never married. She was never in any long-term relationship with a man. She never had any children. And most of the people she interacted with were women. She was very focused on female-identified communities and spaces. And we do know she lived with her friend Nora Lake for at least 20 years. But the exact nature of that relationship, we don't know. So Pamela had Sun in Aquarius conjoined to Venus in Pisces, and that could play out as a secret lesbian love affair. Also, she had Uranus conjoined to the South Node in Leo, opposing Sun and North Node in Aquarius. And this just shows that she was primed for a homosexual lifestyle due to her past life conditioning, with Uranus being on that South Node. Also, she has Mercury in Aquarius squaring Mars in Taurus, so most likely she couldn't see herself being with a man romantically. Also, this is just showing her defying heteronormativity. Moon in Leo square Mars in Taurus. For some women, this can deal with where they're just not into men like that romantically. And it shows that she would not conform to mainstream standards, especially where men were concerned. Basically, she was too strong-willed with that Leo moon to be under the thumb of a man. The creative process. In the 20th century, occultist Arthur Edward Waite commissioned artist and folklorist Pamela Colman Smith to design a tarot deck. She was, he wrote, a most imaginative and abnormally psychic artist. The Rider-Waite deck, as it is known now, was published in December 1909 and went on to become the most popular tarot deck in North America and Canada. Mars conjunct Neptune in Taurus. This is Pamela creating original works of art. Also, this can represent an arduous artistic project. Venus in Pisces sextile Neptune in Taurus. Creating art of a mystical and magical nature. Sun in Aquarius conjunct Venus in Pisces. a most imaginative and abnormally psychic artist. That's basically how Arthur described Pamela, and that's represented by this conjunction between her sun in Aquarius and Venus in Pisces. Yet, as ubiquitous and beloved as the images on the cards have become, the artist behind them has received little recognition. In her personal writings, Colman Smith observed that the project was a big job for very little cash, and until recently, her name was left off most editions of the deck. So this is why I put this Ten of Wands card here, because I feel like that Ten of Wands is representing the process of her illustrating all those cards and how she really didn't get paid, or she didn't get a lot of recognition or money as a result. And that Ten of Wands can represent where someone is assuming all the responsibility or credit for work. So this can be looked at in two ways. Pamela being saddled with this heavy task of illustrating all these cards, but also where Arthur Waite is basically taking all of the credit for the tarot deck. And I'm not saying he purposely did that, but that's the way things worked out. Now she has Pluto and Taurus opposing Sisyphus in Scorpio, and this can represent an uphill battle, long, tedious, and heavy work, and it could have felt like punishment at times. So again, this is also representing that, in my opinion, that Ten of Wands card, or it's reminiscent of it. She must have really felt that card when she was illustrating it. More about the creative process. It appears that Waite provided detailed instructions mainly or exclusively for the major arcana and simple list of meanings for the minor arcana or pip cards. Thus, the memorable scenes of the minor arcana owe largely to Smith's own invention. The minor arcana are indeed one of the notable achievements of this deck, as most earlier tarot decks, especially those of the Marseille type, have extremely simple pip cards. Smith's innovative illustrations for the minor arcana, with their rich symbolism, made the Waite Smith deck a widely imitated model for other tarot decks. So her sun in Aquarius being conjoined to Venus in Pisces is representing her innovative illustrations. The 78 illustrations that make up the Waite Smith Tarot deck represent archetypal subjects that each become a portal to an invisible realm of signs and symbols, believed to be channeled through processes of divination. They are original works of art and unique in terms of the card stylization, draftsmanship, and composition, which is a significant aesthetic achievement. They are one of the best examples of Smith's imagination for fantasy, folly, ecstasy, death, and the macabre. Mars conjunct Neptune in Taurus, original works of art. Also, this can represent a man that seeks her out for her artistic talent, and the man in this case is Arthur Edward Waite. Venus in Pisces sextile Neptune in Taurus. Artistry and imagination produce a mystical aesthetic. Jupiter in Capricorn trine Pluto in Taurus. This quote right here represents this trine right here. So represent archetypal subjects that each become a portal to an invisible realm of signs and symbols, believed to be channeled through processes of divination. It is likely that Smith worked from Waite's written and verbal instructions rather than sketches. That is, from detailed descriptions of the desired designs. This is how illustrators often work. And as a commercial illustrator, Smith would probably have been comfortable with such a working process. Sun in Aquarius sextile Chiron in Taurus represents her work at the behest of her associate, A.E. Waite. Sun in Aquarius conjoined to Venus in Pisces, being an illustrator for a friend / associate / Golden Dawn member. Court cards. We learned that the courts in the Rider-Waite system are based on actor friends of Smith and depict stage actors in Victorian and Edwardian costume. Uranus conjoined to the South Node in Leo. This is representing her actor friends. Uranus and Leo trine Chiron and Taurus, using actor friends as models for her work. Now let's get into some of the aspects in the synastry between Pamela Colman Smith and Arthur Edward Waite. So basically, synergy was the end result of this coupling of Pamela Colman Smith and Arthur Edward Waite. Waite is often cited as the designer of the Waite-Smith Tarot, but it would be more accurate to consider him as half of the design team, with responsibility for the major concepts, the structure of individual cards, and the overall symbolic system. Because Waite was not an artist himself, he commissioned Smith to create the actual deck. So Arthur's Neptune conjoined to Pamela's Saturn in Pisces. That's Pamela manifesting Arthur's vision. Arthur's Neptune in Pisces, sextile Pamela's Pluto in Taurus, artistic collaboration. Arthur's Pluto conjoined to Pamela's Neptune in Taurus, artistic collaboration, commissioning her for the illustrations. And this is the chief synergy aspect right here, that Pluto conjoined to Neptune in Taurus. Arthur's Jupiter conjoined to Pamela's Mars in Taurus. Arthur's high expectations of Pamela's ability to fulfill his mission. And that can also deal with where she was rather overwhelmed. Arthur's Chiron conjoined to Pamela's Mercury in Aquarius. Exceptional, intuitive, telepathic connection between the two of them. Arthur's Uranus conjoined to Pamela's Pluto in Taurus, bonding through the Golden Dawn Society, playing a supporting role as artist for his metaphysical product. Arthur's Mars in Virgo opposition Pamela's Venus in Pisces. Arthur seeking out Pamela to be his illustrator. Arthur providing details and specifications for Pamela to illustrate. Arthur's Saturn in Cancer opposing Pamela's Jupiter in Capricorn, manifesting Arthur's imagination. Issues with Pamela getting recognition for all the work she put in. The enchanting convergence of two creative minds was about to happen. A.E. Waite, a visionary occultist with a profound understanding of mystical traditions, and Pamela Colman Smith, an artistic alchemist with a penchant for breathing life into the unseen. Arthur's Sun and Mercury in Libra trine Pamela's Mercury in Aquarius. Ease in communicating with each other. Pamela could easily intuit Arthur's desired characteristics of the cards. Arthur's Mars in Virgo trine Pamela's Chiron and Neptune in Taurus. Arthur finding and hiring an exceptional artist such as Pamela. Great working relationship with Arthur being at the helm. Pamela, with her vivid and evocative drawings, became the conduit through which Waite's visionary ideas manifested into tangible, enchanting illustrations. Arthur's North Node in Pisces sextile Pamela's Jupiter in Capricorn. Pamela helped Arthur's vision to become manifest. Pamela could bring Arthur's understanding of mysticism down to earth. Arthur's South Node in Virgo trine Pamela's Jupiter in Capricorn. She was dedicated to the work that Arthur demanded. Pamela more than likely exceeded Arthur's expectations. And now let's talk about some of the transits that Pamela was experiencing throughout this creative process of illustrating the tarot cards. Smith completed the art for the deck in the 6 months between April and October 1909. This is a short period of time for an artist to complete some 80 pictures, the number claimed by Smith in a letter to Stieglitz in 1909 and corresponding almost exactly to the standard 78-card tarot deck. Transiting Jupiter in Virgo trine Neptune in Taurus. Making constructive use of artistic talent. being instructed to produce illustrations for a fee. Transiting Neptune in Cancer, trine Black Moon Lilith in Pisces. An artistic project that has personal significance enables her to tap into the deep well of art, magic, and mysticism. Transiting Chiron conjoined to her sun in Aquarius. Enlightenment, also being the chosen one, doing something that is groundbreaking. The transiting nodes in Gemini and Sagittarius were squaring her Saturn in Pisces, being subjected to much back and forth, fearing that she may not live up to Waite's expectations, being overwhelmed, and more than likely she was getting by on very little sleep. Transiting Jupiter in Virgo, quincunx Mercury in Aquarius. Information overload. So she could have been suffering from information overload with all the details that Arthur was providing. So many details to make sense of. The deck bearing Smith's illustrations, first published in England by Ryder in December 1909, were simply labeled tarot cards and accompanied by the Key to the Tarot Guide by Arthur Edward Waite. His guide was updated the following year with Smith's black and white drawings and republished as the Pictorial Key to the Tarot. Transiting Neptune in Cancer, trine Saturn in Pisces. So they could have had a party to celebrate the completion of the project. Also, Pamela experiencing a sense of relief, her being able to get some rest and respite as a result of completing this project. And basking in glory. Transiting Uranus in Capricorn, sextile Saturn in Pisces. Receiving recognition with metaphysical society for artistic output. Transiting Pluto in Gemini, trine Sun in Aquarius. Remember, Gemini rules the cards themselves. Completion of the cards makes Smith feel accomplished. Pluto transits can represent the completion of something, something coming to an end, finality. Transiting Chiron conjoined to North Node in Aquarius. Breaking the mold, a special mission is accomplished. So Pamela Colman Smith, you could consider her to be legendary in the metaphysical world. The Rider-Waite tarot deck, with its magical fusion of Pamela's artistic brilliance and Waite's esoteric knowledge, forever etched Pamela's name in the history of esoteric art, ensuring her legacy would endure through the ages. Jupiter in Capricorn, trine Pluto and Taurus, being immortalized through her work. Contribution to the spirit world have stood the test of time. Mercury parallel echo. The many tarot decks that are innovations of Pamela's work. And there's been a couple of biographies written about Pamela Colman Smith. This one is by Stuart R. Kaplan, if you want to read it. It explores her childhood in Jamaica, her involvement in English women's suffrage, and her presence in literary circles that included the Yeats family. Not to mention her vast, diverse artistic output. The book reveals a complex, talented woman whose efforts to overcome patriarchal structures in the 20th century are strikingly relevant in the 21st. So that concludes my reading on Pamela Colman Smith. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you, Roma, again for sponsoring this reading. I enjoyed learning about Pamela Colman Smith. I learned some new things about her. So stay tuned for more readings. If you would like a reading, you can go to my website. The link is in the description section. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I just want to send a special shout out and thank you to my patrons and also my channel members and to all my subscribers, clients, all of that good stuff. Stay tuned for more readings. Peace and many blessings.